Hello, my name is Joel Berman. I'm a compassionate listening facilitator and I live in Concord, New Hampshire.
Hi, I'm Yael Petretti. I'm a compassionate listening facilitator and I live in Massachusetts.
Well, we just came back from an amazing 9 days in Alabama. It was the third trip that I've made to Alabama with Yael in the last 3 years. I had never been to Alabama before that, never had any desire to go to Alabama before that, until Yael decided that the Compassionate Listening Project should visit some places right here in the United States. And I couldn't say no. So in January 2020, I went with 23 other people to Alabama for the very first time. And as soon as I was there, I knew I had to come back. And yeah, Ellen and I came back in the summer of 2021 for a reconnaissance mission and a planning session for the next journey, which was October of 2022. I'd like to ask you, Yael, what was this like, having been to Alabama 3 previous times? And I'm interested in what this 4th trip was like for you compared with the previous 3.
Oh, thanks, Joel. I felt very, very comfortable because I feel as though we started making, laying a network of good friends and contacts. And I know that we've just started. We're going to meet lots more people and have, every trip is different, right? Because of the people that we meet and we talk to and the experiences that we have with them and on our own. But I just see a really big possibility for us, a great deal of possibility that we'll be able to, expand and make the trips better and better and better. And thanks to you, Joel, and your former roommate's friend, Ed, he opened up so many doors for us. Maybe you'll talk about that a little bit. That was completely serendipity and just perfect.
A friend of mine had a best friend from college who still lives in Montgomery, who's the emeritus archivist for the state of Alabama. And my friend put me in touch with him. And this man, Ed Bridges, according to my friend, knows everybody in Alabama. And it sure seemed that way when we got there. And he was so excited at the prospect of a bunch of non-Alabamians coming down simply to learn about the diversity of the Alabama story and its applicability to the major stories that are happening in the greater country. So all the major themes of American history, all the major themes of American current events are actually playing out in Alabama. And he was so enthusiastic that we would come down and see Alabama with the intention of really learning about the lived experiences of the people there, rather than coming down like the majority of people who come to the civil rights sites. They visit the sites. They, according to Ed and others, bring a certain attitude of disdain for the history of Alabama, and then they leave. And our approach was very different. We came really to listen and learn and to recognize our own biases. One of the major lessons for me in going to Alabama was learning how resentful Alabamians are across color lines, across socioeconomic lines, across political lines, at the superiority that most visitors bring with them, the implicit bias. That was probably the biggest lesson for me, was that for my whole life I've been carrying this implicit bias, a broad brush indictment of Alabama. And to learn that I had been doing this was a huge revelation to me.
Joel mentioned that certain learnings. And I think that's probably, as compassionate listeners, that is probably even a greater priority for us than just seeing the sights. That's important. But I was so struck the first time that I got to talk to Ed as well. We were on a Zoom call with him before the trip. And he said, when I first heard you say compassionate listening group, I thought, oh no, here comes another group of northern do-gooders, that are going to be compassionate. That is, pity us poor, stupid Southerners. And I was aghast because I had never thought of that. But that is a really good example of the kind of blind spots that we have. Certainly I had. and when you look at the background, and when you look at the history of the relationship between other sections of the country to the South, it seems obvious, but of course, that's the lens through which he, who is an eminently educated and educating historian, but still that's in his DNA. And for us, I kind of joked and said, well, we'll just write across the top of the itinerary, do not say compassionate listening, but it's a good example of the kind of thing that we went to learn. And of course, there's no end to that. We'll always learn a lot more. And, the more you learn, the more you know you'll never know, which is a little bit depressing, but it's an incredible learning by immersion. And at the same time, the people that are there are so incredibly warm and welcoming and just loving people. So they make us very comfortable as we pursue this learning and as we pursue the practice of being able to listen to people say things which to our un-Southern ears can be kind of hard to hear. Oh no, we're the good ones. We're not like all that. It's just a very profound learning experience, and a warm one, I would say. As hard as parts of it are, it's good for us. And we've made some beautiful friends on the way.
Talking about the warm welcome, there are a couple things that stand out to me. One is the rib crunching bear hugs that we get from people like Wanda, that almost take your breath away. Another moment was when we were in Selma, and we came into the presence of Mr. Sally, 92-year-old, who was on the bridge on Bloody Sunday. And when we went up to him, we surrounded him, the 20 of us, and listened to his stories. And I went up to him and I said, Mr. Sally, I don't know if you remember, but we were here in January of 2020 when we sat under the bridge with you and spent some time together. And he got this huge smile on his face, and he wrapped his arms around me and just gave me a squeeze. So coming back, seeing these people again, they're knowing that their meeting with us was not forgotten and that it was meaningful enough for us to come back. It's so gratifying. And the smallest acts of kindness on our part generated such an enthusiastic response on theirs. We brought maple syrup gifts and maple sugar candy for the various speakers. And the response that we got was just over the top. It was amazing. People were so thrilled to get some kind of small token of something emblematic of the region of the country we came from. I was really overwhelmed by that. Another aspect of this trip that I think distinguishes it from similar trips to the civil rights sites that friends of mine have made is the wonderful healing that comes from the group of us as we bond, get to know each other through the 9 days, and we hold each other in compassion. We help each other process some of the more difficult elements of the journey that we went on when we went through the Legacy Museum and then the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. That was probably the most difficult day for me. And this time we built in plenty of space for debriefing so that the 20 of us in our group could sit together for 2 hours afterwards and process what it meant to each one of us and hear different perspectives from the other 19 people. And some of our responses were similar, some were different, but just listening to everybody, learn to make sense out of what we just experienced was a profound gift for me that I think distinguishes us from other groups. We built in a lot of debriefing, a lot of quiet time, and in the surveys that we got back, the evaluation forms that we got back about the journey, many people commented on how helpful it was to have the debriefing sessions and just to hold each other in presence and often in silence was really helpful for everybody. I felt like I made 19 new friends and went through a little bit of withdrawal when I came home. After waking up and being in their presence for 9 days, it was like, hey, where'd everybody go? Where's my family? I'm all alone again. So I think going forward, we're going to build on that and make sure that we have a nice balance between visiting the sites, listening to people's stories, and then giving ourselves as a group enough time to digest it, make sense out of it, and support each other through the journey.
I think one of our speakers who is, we kind of cherish him, but he's hard to listen to. He's like a true son of the Confederacy. And I learned that even if it doesn't go exactly the way we want, that is, that we get time to interact with him and reflect and do our compassionate listening thing. Even if we don't, we learned a lot, or I learned a lot about how he feels, like just intuiting what we're picking up from him and how it is so worth the effort to keep connecting with him, because he obviously wants to connect with us. And that is our aim, is to do that kind of thing.
One of the reasons I keep doing this is because I come back with hope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When people ask me, wow, what was it like going into the heart of the Deep South? And I say, until you've been there, you can't understand that when you hear people's stories, you hear what people have gone through on both sides of the political divide and how they've survived and thrived and continue to look for solutions. It's a gift to me when I come back home to recognize that, as a famous rabbi once said, we don't have the luxury of despair. And trips like this just fill me with hope that when you get close to people, as Brian Stevenson advises, you can't understand anything until you get close to people and you see them as fellow human beings. And you can see the world through their eyes, stepping in their shoes, recognizing that you have more in common than you have that separates you. It fills me with hope to face the next day. So I imagine I'll be doing this for as long as I can get on a plane and meet people, get close to them, and see the world from their perspective.
And one of the most amazing things that happens is when we, Joel and I have had occasion to talk to some of the people that have been our speakers, alone or separately when we came down in July and so on, and to tell them, and they know very well we're on, disparate sides of the political spectrum, but to tell them that we learn from them, and we thank them for their help in teaching us and making us better people, and understanding the humanity of everybody involved. They are flabbergasted almost as much as they are when they first understand that we really do want to just listen to them. I mean, how many times does it happen to anyone, that somebody comes and says, I just want to learn about you. Would you tell me? I'll listen, It's hard. It's hard for them to accept that at first. But once they do, it's, the floodgates are just, and the welcome and the warmth are just really unforgettable. And that's a good lesson for us too, just to see how hungry people are to be heard. I'll keep doing it as long as I can too. Yeah.
We've got our next journey already scheduled, April 10th through the 18th, 2023. And we are reaching out for people. In fact, tonight I'm going over to the Community Church of Durham, New Hampshire, where 6 of our participants came from, and they are giving a presentation that they've invited me to participate in, where we're going to share our story and try to fill our roster once again so we can return with a full busload of compassionate listeners. And